Okay, for this next section of the Google Classroom, we're going to talk about the a grading um, fundamental that we can use to help us assess our students in a more kind of particular way. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and set up what's something called a rubric. And Google Classroom has these built in, and there's a couple different ways we can use these rubrics. And so I'm going to kind of walk through how we might use one of the rubrics, okay? So let's just start by going ahead and creating an assignment on our Google Classroom. We're going to call this math behavior, okay? Nothing big. We might ask a question of how well were you able to organize your thoughts, and how well and what are some of your ideas? Okay, so this is just kind of a two-part question. Kind of asks how they thought they did in their thoughts, and obviously maybe list a couple of their ideas. I'm not going into, there's another video for different ways to incorporate assignments, so I'm just kind of keeping this simple. We're going to go ahead and use another example template um, for our kids for just demonstration purposes. So we're going to go ahead and make this a copy for each student. I'm going to assign this to a math grading category this time, and we're going to assign it to the math topic. So that'll route to our math header. Now then, down here we have a little area that says rubric. We can create a rubric, reuse a rubric, or import from our Google Sheets. So I'm going to go through each of these. For this first one, I'd like to go ahead and reuse a rubric that I already have created that I don't see here, which is fine with me. We're going to go ahead and import one then, so that way I can kind of give you guys an idea as to what this will look like. So the main thing I wanted to do, if I were to reuse one, I forgot I deleted all the content in this classroom, so no wonder it doesn't have a rubric. But I want to kind of show you like a basic rubric. These things, you can make them pretty advanced, and you can make these things very, very pinpoint. And that's sort of what we want to do with these rubrics. And a lot of it's based on our observations and on our students, and it's just going to create a unique way to grade how these students are either acting, or maybe just look at their behavior, or we can even assess whether or not a student was able to actually obtain the curriculum that was demonstrated or modeled for them. So I made this simple one where there's a point scale. 1 point over here just means they're at the beginning level. They are, and it has a description as to what that might look like. So in this case, ideas are vague or unclear. From now, you've probably already read through this, but the point scale increases to 4, and 4 meaning it exceeds the standards. And that's, of course, where we want our students to end up. But as we know, most of our students might start in our beginning area, and it'd be good to go ahead and send them sort of an assessment at the beginning of the year, see how they do, and then towards the end of the year, give them the same one and just see if they've increased and have exceeded. I did the same thing for organization. You can really make these descriptions really spell out what it looks like for someone with no organization to someone that really has strong organization skills. I didn't do that for this purpose. However, whenever you're creating your own rubric, go ahead and keep that in mind. Also, just a quick side note, most of these rubrics are already invented, and if you're like me, you don't want to repeat yourself or someone else what they've already done. And so if you can use other person's rubrics, that's some of the advice I might give you. Just make sure it's scoped into what it is that you're trying to document. All right, so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and before I go ahead and save it, I imported that rubric, which means these rubrics can be shared. And so once they're shared, I can come in and I can add my own details. Ideas are general and still need development or something like that. So I'm just going to show you right here that you can edit these rubrics. Obviously, if we don't need it, you can delete it using the snowman. And then what we can do is we can save this, and now the rubric is going to be attached right here. When I click on it, though, I would actually have to come in to the snowman to edit it, okay? So if I edit it, I could actually maybe change to ascending order. That would just rearrange our point scale. That might be better for us. We'll go ahead and leave it in ascending. And let's see what it says. It says, there are errors on this page. Please fix and try again. Rating list not in sort order. Oh, that's kind of annoying. So let's see what happens if I do this. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating that it did that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just going to delete that one, and I'm going to go ahead and add it back in, just so that I can show you the that we can go ahead and use these rubrics. Okay. Same rubric, saving. I know why that happened. I just don't want to go into it in this particular video at this point. So once I do that, I can go ahead and assign this thing to my classroom. Now, it didn't take very long. Let's see what happens on the student side. So here's the student view. I go to classwork. It's not there yet. Let's hit refresh and see what happens. There we go. So I have the math behavior assignment. It's assigned. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we got to do. This is not organized for me. I don't want to do this. Ooh. So he is not doing very well with organization and ideas. So let's say Jimmy turns that in. We'll go ahead and close that out. It's showing that it's assigned still, which means that he hasn't actually turned it all the way in. But I want to take just a second right here to pause and take a look at our thing. Now Jimmy has this small scale. If I had more criterion in here, it would display, and I could have actually more little bars that would indicate essentially a bigger, more pinpointed accuracy. So let's go ahead and turn that in, and let's see what happens on the teacher view and see what Jimmy gets whenever we have it graded. So come over here, it shows it's turned in. And there's a number, obviously if I grade it here, it's not going to translate to these. So let's see how we can do that. I click on the assignment, and what I can do is I see that for when I hover it says exceed standards. He did not do any work, so I'm going to grade it a 1. And his organization, we'll just grade that a 1. Now as I'm grading these, you can see that my grade scale has updated to a 25. We return this. We could add some comments and say something like, hey Jimmy, why don't you try this assignment again? I think you can do better. We come over to the student view, and now it's communicated to them, hey, this is what you did. Maybe I add a little private note. Let's see what happens. Please consider trying this assignment again. We'll send that over to Jimmy privately. He's the only one that's going to see that comment, and it actually appeared before I refreshed. So now what I could do is essentially come into this and do a mastery of organization. I'm great at this now. And then here is and then maybe he does all that, okay? So it gives you the turned in version, and then basically he's going to have to resubmit it, turn it in, okay? And now it's resubmitted and turned in. Let's see what happens. Does he still need to come in here and view the assignment? No, it's already turned in. So now on the teacher side, I come over here. It says it's resubmitted. Oh, okay, I better pay attention to that. Let's see what he did. All right, okay. He's good at it. This is his evidence. Okay, sweet. Hey, Jimmy, you know what? I think that you are definitely meeting my standards. I'm going to up your grade, tell him that he did a great job. It's in the middle of returning, and I'll just go ahead, great job. And then I always like to send him little notes, and you can see those little notes are just, I mean, it's live, it's updating on his end over here, so it's kind of nice to have this side-by-side version of it. Okay, so that's the first element of the rubric. Now let's talk about how we can use these rubrics a little bit more in depth, okay? So you've already kind of seen how we can go in and import a rubric, so how do we make our own? Okay, so let's just kind of walk through that right quick. All right, so let's do like testing 101. This is just a test. And then we're going to add the assignment just for sanity reasons. Throw a little Jimmy template in here. And we'll make it for each student. Go ahead and let's assign this one to science. Topic, we'll put it to science also. Now let's create a rubric. So let's just do a quick little, we'll do a rubric for behavior. And then, we want to keep the rubric kind of simple for them, something that is polite for their mind, okay? So, and also something sort of positive, because remember, they are able to, the students, they can actually see like how they're graded. So what's right here is essentially going to be this word right here, okay? And let's say that we're going, like you guys are going to be more of an expert at this than I am, but let's go ahead and use something like modeling an example, okay? And then student, a lot of times for the description right here, I add the teak so that they can see exactly what it's referring to. And a lot of times my title is actually the vocabulary, like the Bloom's taxonomy. And I'll just kind of put 1 or 2 criterion right there, and then that is the title. So a student can model an equation, model how to use. Okay, so we'll just kind of put some junk in there. Now then, we have the point value here, and notice these little pluses to add. So we'll just say points 1 is beginning. Okay, and then we'd put student knows what a so that's just like, I'm just putting in some junk information, but kind of keeping it real. Beginning, they can do it, so you would say like efficient, and then they can actually describe, so they know what this is, but they can also so this is more efficient, and then we'll have 3, and we'll put expert. Or you can, you can come up with your own level. Exceeds expectation. That's what we like to hear. And so I put that in. Obviously, they know all of this, so I'm going to paste it. Student knows what period total is. Can identify most of the elements and why they're placed. And give give okay. And just you want to update your literature so student knows what a periodic table is and can identify all of the elements and why they are placed, and give detailed summaries as to why they're placed. Don't criticize me, please, on all my grammar and all that stuff because I'm not good at it. Okay, here we go. I have my criterion in there. Little thing, nice little simple rubric, nothing crazy. Now I'm going to essentially assign this, and the student is going to get the assignment. We already walked through what it is that they would be seeing whenever they come to their classroom, and give that a moment. Boom, there's their assignment. I'll be able to look at the assignment as a student, click on it, go ahead and turn it all in. They are, let's say we get back the periodic table. I'm not going to go through all the different elements of turning it in. All we got to know is that it gets turned in from the student side, modeling an example. And so maybe they give this example. I saw them do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rate them. Man, they did good on their presentation, but they didn't know all of the elements. So I'm going to tell them that they're pretty efficient. Okay, maybe I didn't like that it gave them a 66.67 on this. So what I can do is come into the grading and update that to an 80 because I think they deserve different. But still, the rubric, I can leave that the same because that's real grading. So 2 out of 3 occurrences or something. Or maybe we grade them on the number of times they say the word like, because I've seen things done that way before. And maybe we just grade on occurrences. And if we do that, then we want to update our rubric so that it kind of represents those occurrences. But in this case, we're just going to see if he was able to do most of these. And that's what this is. I hit return, and let's see what happens on the student end. So on the student end, I come over here. We're going to see how it communicates. Okay, sweet. It gave him an 80, and it shows him that he's efficient, 2 out of 3, not bad. He could resubmit it, but this was a presentation, so probably not. All right, so that's basically the breakdown on how we can go ahead and we can update the rubric using create. We could reuse a rubric. So once the rubrics are in there, you're able to go in and just reuse it. So as you can see, it's labeled 1 criterion on that testing 1-on-1. Or math behavior, the one that we used in the other element, has 2 criterion to it. So that's kind of helping. You'll want to make sure that you're labeling them, titling them correctly, so that way you can maybe reuse them. I might think of more of a vague title for, say, like English behavior, math behavior, science behavior, something like that. And then that way I can scope in maybe a particular behavior. The world's, your oyster on this. The sky is the limit. You can really make these things crazy, awesome, and you could create a database of rubrics that you want to sort of measure your case load kids or whatever you may be doing. But I know the reason why I did this originally was because a lot of the assessments on Eduphoria couldn't do like behavior assessment essentially, and so I was having to use other areas, and so I had to have direct observation, and that direct observation was the thing that I had to measure, and so this allowed me to actually document that direct observation. And so, especially whenever it's the case where I'm in math, co-teach, and another co-teacher is doing this measurement in, say, English as another co-teacher, since I'm not the co-teacher observing, I need a tool that allows them to communicate to me what their observations are. Um, and the reason why it's kind of based off a co-teacher is because a lot of my feedback from teachers has not been, they would be graded on kind of a lower communication scale because they are so busy doing other things that whenever it comes to essentially observing a particular behavior, it's difficult for them. So that's why we need to sort of come up with another process that would help enable us to document those processes. And this rubric scale is super awesome for doing that. All right, so that's a little bit about the rubrics and how we can use those, how you can import them, create them, and reuse them. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you.